Okay, in the last lecture that you gave, last video you made, you were referring to putting prices up or down for particular products, and it seems to me that you were saying that if the elasticity of demand is different for different products, you get different responses.
You do.
Now, here's something we see all the time. You see these handouts in letterboxes, and it seems that there's some products that always seem to have these price specials. Can you go through what it is about them that makes them either price elastic or price inelastic?
Sure. What we need to look at actually quite specifically is what we call the factors or determinants of price elasticity of demand. So when you look at some of these products, e.g. this cheese, for example, what we find is, or what supermarket owners find, is that because there's a large range of available substitutes for this particular brand name product, that a price drop for this line will actually work. We would imagine that demand is relatively price elastic. In terms of, say, the prime...
So
Yep.
is that then the reason for that is the existence of substitutes?
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
If the range and availability of close substitutes is quite high,
okay,
we would anticipate that the price elasticity demand would also be high. So that will work. That should actually increase their revenue along that line. The nappies is probably the same. There's probably a large number of varieties of nappies that you can buy for Bubby. The red meat one's interesting, and we need to talk about that, because that one, that's specifically a premium beef, so we would assume that there's some substitutes available for beef, but it also represents a fair portion, possibly, of people's weekly incomes. So
yes,
that's
right.
a factor we need
It's
to
an
consider as
expensive
well.
thing relative to
Yes.
people's income.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely, yes.
And things like the winter veg of broccoli, which is now been attributed with that superfood status. So some people may now be juicing that, regarding that as a necessity. So almost irrespective of the price, perhaps price elasticity demand for that might actually be quite low.
Okay.
But
So
we need to look at all those factors.
So things that are luxuries are seen, and that's of course very much a personal perception, but things that are seen as luxuries would tend to have a price elasticity of demand that is high.
Yes.
Yes. Price elastic. Whereas things that are what did I say?
Necessities. Necessities.
Yeah, necessities.
Necessities of life. The necessities of life. The price elasticity of demand is quite low.
Yes.
It's quite
So
low.
an interesting case there would be salt. I mean, salt is a necessity of life.
You
and you never get a special on salt. And of course, it's a very small portion of income too.
Yes,
so,
it is.
So
And
it's
the
very
range,
affordable.
and the range and availability of close substitutes is very small.
Very small, yes. You either
Yeah.
get salt or maybe you get salt. I mean,
Indeed, it's true. So
Okay.
we need to assess those. There's four that we've alluded to. There's four dominant factors, and the one that we haven't discussed, of course, is time. How much time you've got to seek alternatives.
absolutely, yes.
Whether there's another supermarket just
Yes.
down the road that you can dive into quickly,
Oh, and it really,
or
yeah.
whether the next supermarket's 200 kilometres away. You haven't got time to go there.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yes,
So-
and you know, a classic example, of course, is having a bottle of wine in a restaurant. You don't have time to go out and buy one and bring it in, and so it's more expensive than if you bought it in a bottle shop.
Sure,
Okay,
indeed.
yes.
So we need to look at those four factors, and we've alluded to a couple of generalisations which generally hold true, and in particular the range and availability of close substitutes. If it's high, then the likely price elasticity of demand will be high. If a good or service is perceived as being a necessity, then it's likely that the price elasticity of demand will be very low, i.e. relatively price inelastic.
Okay, and so what we're saying now, just harking back to your earlier video, what we're saying is that these kinds of goods their revenues are likely to rise when you push the price down. That's why you're always seeing them there. Businesses see that as a viable business thing to do,
Yeah.
bring the price down.
Yeah.
You never see salt here, because when you bring the price down as a special, because if you bring, they actually lose revenue.
They do. They do.
Yeah, okay.
That is true. If price elasticity of demand is low, then a price fall is not a good outcome.
Okay.
TR actually fall.
All right, TR4. Okay, now, what about the responsiveness of price for suppliers? We better kind of do another video on that, hadn't we?
We better have a close look at that.
Yes, because
yes, producers themselves are also impacted, or their willingness to respond or their ability to respond to price changes is also a factor in determining the price elasticity of supply.
yes. So how much extra supply they're prepared to supply when the price goes up or
Exactly.
down.
We need to have a look at that.